Hello, YouTube, and welcome to another interview. Today I'm interviewing 22-year-old left-hand pitcher out of Mohegan Lakes, New York, was drafted in the second round of the 2021 MLB draft by the San Francisco Giants, Matthew Mikulski. Matt, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you, man?
I'm great. You wanna explain a little bit of how we know each other and how we met? I want to hear your point of view on this.
I guess. I mean, I I've known you since you were a little baby. I guess that's the right way to put it. Yeah. I mean, um, obviously, my grandma was married to your grandpa, so um, we would always see each other at family functions and stuff like that. So I knew you since you were a little baby.
No, and
How
it's
you feel?
it's crazy to say, like 18 years later, now that I'm getting to interview you on my YouTube channel. We were just talking about it before, but this is kind of like I've done about 16 interviews, whether it be on the YouTube or for the website I write for. But this is probably the most surreal one for me so far.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thankful to have it, and yeah, I'm happy to be here.
So, could you describe what growing up in New York and around Mohegan Lakes was like for you?
Yeah, Mohegan Lake was, I mean, small town. Growing up, had my core group of friends, and that was really it. It wasn't anything other than just every day we would go out there and we'd be playing sports, any type of sport, whether it was baseball, football, basketball, spike ball, lacrosse, stuff like that. We were always just doing some type of sport, and yeah, I got a lot of buddies that are athletes as well in college, or were athletes as well in college, who were from the same town. And yeah, no, it's pretty. We're about like 30 minutes north from where I went to college at Fordham, so it wasn't that bad of a commute either, And yeah, it was nice. It's a nice little area, 30 minutes north of the city, and you're there. So
No, and I remember coming up there. It was nice. You and James. I remember like early. That's some of my earliest memories. And speaking of early memories, what's the earliest memory of baseball that you can recollect? Because you've been doing it your entire life. Now you're on the verge of making it big. So what is like the first memory you can think of where baseball was in your life?
I would say probably one of the first memories I ever had was like my dad driving me and my brother to this elementary school a couple towns over. It was in Yorktown. And we were dressed up like in our baseball gear or whatever. And I remember he had a game, like whatever type of game earlier that day. And then I had my game later in the day. So I had to watch his game, and then I played. And yeah, I mean, I think the earliest memory was like getting like the jerseys on like the first day. And I remember I was on like the Orioles or something, and like my brother was on like the Tampa Bay Rays or something like that, or vice versa. I think I was on the Tampa Bay Rays and he was on the Orioles or something like that. And like picking out the jerseys and then running onto the field, that's like the first memory I really have, and like hitting it off a tee, stuff like that, for sure.
No, and that's crazy to think about because I think a lot of kids, whether they went to play baseball after that or not, have all gone through that. I have memories of the same thing. So, is it weird years later, about probably 18 years later for you, to be now putting on a jersey that says San Francisco on it, whichever minor league team you are a part of, or even when you were at Martha's Vineyard, anything like that? Is it weird? Even Fordham, is it weird to put on like a real team's jersey like that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess like growing up, like you kind of start off with like, I guess there's two ways to like answer this question. You start off with like the shittier type of materials, and then as you get older, you kind of graduate into better jerseys and stuff like that. So I remember like getting like my college jersey and being like, wow, this is like one of the nicer jerseys I've ever worn. And then obviously like putting on the San Francisco Giants jersey for the first time, it was like a glove. But I think like from how you were asking that question, I would say for me, I would say I was kind of expecting it. I tried every single day of my life. I was trying to work towards something, and work towards being a professional athlete in something, and whether it was baseball, football, or basketball, or whatever it was, I wanted to be a professional athlete. So I think like as the times came, like, yeah, I had that little moment of like, wow, like, this is crazy that I'm putting this jersey on. But at the same time, it's like, I belong here, like you always got to tell yourself that. So.
No, yeah, and I think one of the more rare jerseys you probably wore were in those summer times between your time at Fordham. Can you tell me a little bit about your time at Martha's Vineyard or Brewster?
Yeah, I mean, Martha's Vineyard, it was a good time, it's definitely different out there, playing on an island. So all the home games obviously wasn't too far from where I was staying, so probably like a 10-minute drive. And then all the away games, you'd have to hop on a ferry, 45-minute ferry, and then whatever type of drive it was, usually a 3-hour drive, 3-hour plus drive somewhere, get to the field, play a game. So usually the away games were like a whole day ordeal, and then you don't get back. You get back to the ferry at like 12 o'clock at night, and you take a ferry pretty early in the morning, 1 o'clock in the morning. Then you probably don't really get to bed around like 1:32. So that's the lifestyle like out in Martha's Vineyard. And then the Cape is more so real similar to minor league ball, except it's real condensed. There's not a lot of traveling, where in a sense, like, you're just kind of every day you're waking up and you're getting to the field and you're grinding, whether you're getting to early work real early, and then by the time the game comes, it's already 6 o'clock and you've been at the field since 11:30 in the morning, so it's just, that's kind of what the Cape kind of introduced. And wearing those jerseys, I think like those were probably two of the top jerseys I've ever worn, like color schemed wise. Like Martha's Vineyard was purple, black and white, which was pretty slick. And we were the Sharks. And then Brewster, we were the Whitecaps. We were like a nice like aqua blue, then a navy blue, and a white. So we had like some pretty cool colors, or I had some pretty cool colors over my summer baseball experience, I guess.
No, the last time I saw your mother, she was showing me clips of you in those jerseys, and I was so confused because I was always used to seeing you in either Fordham clips or stuff like that with the signature like maroon. So seeing that, it was really cool, and I even showed those. My principal played for the Cubs and the Dodgers, and he was telling me how like because he doesn't see left-handed pitchers with the speed that you have usually, he was saying, and how well he thought you were going to do. And speaking of that, there were mock drafts where where some people had you going 20th to the Yankees, which is your hometown team. But how is the fit in California and with the Giants so far for you?
Yeah, I mean, being on the West Coast is definitely a different vibe, but I like it, And for me, yeah, there was definitely murmurs and stuff, being a hometown kid going to the Yankees, but the San Francisco Giants gave me that opportunity. They're the ones who gave me that call, and I'm ready to give everything I have to them. And I love the city of San Francisco. We actually were able to, as a draft class, visit it in the fall for a rookie camp. And, we got to see the city and stuff like that, and I kind of fell in love with it, and I'm excited to hopefully one day play in that city, bring a championship to that city,
I mean, I'm guessing that's a lot of people's dreams, and San Francisco is not opposed to championships in most of their sports. But a big thing you see with athletes like Donovan Mitchell or others is that they keep their hometown teams as their favorite teams even while they're playing. Donovan Mitchell will wear a Yankees cap even though he's in Utah, and he always talks about New York. Would you say that you've totally shifted gears from New York teams to all California-based teams, or are you still rooting for the Yankees in a certain aspect?
No, I mean, for me, when it comes to baseball, I don't have a favorite team. Like I have people that I watch. I like to emulate certain guys, but I don't really have a favorite team. I like watching good baseball. Obviously, my favorite team is the San Francisco Giants.
I'd hope.
But I'm definitely still like a Knicks fan. I want to see the Knicks do well. I want to see, obviously, I'll root for the Nets every now and then. But then I want to see the Rangers do well. So I want to see those teams do well. But when it comes to baseball, I'm San Fran, baby. You already know.
I mean, it sucks that we're both Knicks fans, but, no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Listen, I think, like, I think it's a process. I think at the end of the day, it's ownership, right? And like, I don't know. I can't really speak about it because I'm not crazy into it, but I think most of it is ownership. So
No, but it is really cool because most athletes that I've asked won't really give an opinion because I've asked one person that was in the NBA about their favorite team and they either fell out of it where they weren't really watching, just like you, they weren't like heavily watching this other teams and they were more watching players. But it's kind of cool to hear you say that you still will root for the Knicks, Nets, and Rangers, even though you're all the way out in San Fran. And it's cool to see that hometown pride stick with you.
I'll always be a New Yorker. You know, I think like I wear that as like a badge of pride. You know, for me, like being a hometown kid, going to Fordham, and then setting records at Fordham, like being a kid, like a poster boy at Fordham. Like I think like being a New Yorker is like something that will always be with me, you know, wherever I go. And yeah, for sure, it's something that I wear as a badge of honor.
Speaking of Fordham, what was your experience like there?
Yeah, I mean, Fordham was it was the perfect combination of academics and athletics, you know, and that's why I chose it, you know, when I was getting recruited. And I think my experience there was just something out of a storybook, right? Like you win a championship your sophomore year, and then your senior year you break some records. You can't really ask for anything more. But at the same time, it's a chapter of my life that chapter has closed, and it's something that is great to look back at. But every now and then, it's great to look back at every now and then and stuff like that. But it's in the past, and you're only as good as your last start, you know. And I think like obviously the 9-0 season and the 124 Ks, all that stuff, like that'll be there forever. But like, what are you going to do? What have you done for me lately? What are you going to do this year? You know, and that's what I'm focused on. I'm focused on being a professional athlete, and you know, my amateur career ended off on a high note, and I'm happy about that. But I'm looking to start off my professional career with a bang, and hopefully 20 years from now, I could be saying the same thing, that I ended my professional career on a high note, you know?
No, and I love that, and I love that you brought up the records you broke at Fordham and stuff, and the 9-0 season especially. But there was a gap there in between sophomore and senior year where the pandemic really struck all of not only professional sports, but I would say it hit college and high school sports the hardest. What was your experience while being an athlete in the NCAA amidst the worst pandemic in 100 years?
You know, when we got the news, it was definitely tough, devastating, seeing like some of these guys that I see every single day, and I would consider them family, you know, consider them brothers, and these seniors that will never put on another baseball uniform ever again, you know, or will never play with each other ever again. And they just got that taken away from them from a pandemic, you know. It's just at the time, it was a tough pill to swallow, you know. It was just really tough. But for me, it was my junior season, you know, so I was still focused on getting drafted. And so right after the pandemic hit and they told us our season was canceled, I just kept going, kept throwing. And the draft came up. As the draft was coming up, the rounds were changing. They ended up changing it to a 5-round draft. And sadly, you know, I didn't get my name called. And, you know, I ended up just put my nose back down and got back to work, you know, and worked out that whole summer and came back to Fordham and just really try to just keep working hard each day.
No, yeah, and I would even say it might have benefited you with the second-round pick and the insane senior year at Fordham. It definitely might have given you a better shot, and where you are now, it's probably the perfect scenario in your head as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, it's all about how you want to, like, set yourself up. You know, if you got the big picture in your head, you know, and it's all about setting yourself up, how can I get myself there? And, you know, and it's focusing on what I can do today to get myself there in the bigger picture, you know. And I think that's kind of the realization I had after the draft, the 5-round draft in 2020, where I was like, how do I get to a spot where I can separate myself from everyone else? So how can I make the necessary adjustments and stuff like that? And I just kind of kept my head down and focus on what I can do now to affect what will come later. So.
No, that's a great answer, and I think that whole pandemic draft situation helped you out in the long run and will help you out in the long run. But a big thing that I gotta ask is, where were the fundamentals for you with not just baseball but your life? Like, who was your idol? It could be baseball, athletics, but who was your idol growing up, just in general?
Yeah, I mean, I got a lot of different ones. It's hard to just pinpoint one. If you want to go with like any sport, I think like I'm a huge combat sports guy. I like watching like boxing, UFC, stuff like that. So obviously you got to go with like Muhammad Ali. He was probably like the first person to ever like break the barriers of anything as an athlete, religiously, race wise and stuff like that. So I think like you got to go there with that. Or I think for me being a left-handed pitcher, if you want to focus it in a little bit more, like I choose a bunch of different left-handed pitchers to like copy off of or like emulate or try and be like. And a couple of those names are like CC Sabathia, Andy Pettit, obviously being a New York guy. Like those two names are the ones that like pop out right away. And then Barry Zito or like even a Clayton Kershaw when he came around. Like it definitely changed a lot during my baseball career as I grew up. Who was the lefty pitcher that was trending that year that I wanted to be like or something like that.
No, and I like how throughout this interview you're keeping the New York references, and I love that you named CC Sabathia as the first one. That was perfect. A big thing is, and I know you probably collected cards when you were a kid, and maybe, I mean, some adults do it. I doubt you're doing it now. But you have a rookie card. If you go on Twitter and you search up Matt Mikulski, every tweet about it, besides the articles written about you and draft analysis, it's about your rookie card and trading and selling. Is that crazy to see that you're on a card? There's a picture of you pitching on a card that people can buy and trade and stuff like that, and that people have.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's kind of like what you were saying with the jersey question. I think like it's something that for sure when I was signing them or when I first like looked at them, it was surreal to even see that I had a card. But then at the same time, I had that thought like I deserve this. Like I belonged here, and this is what I thought up in my head, and this is all a part of the plan.
No, I bet, and it must be cool to. Have you gotten any of them? Have you held one in your hand yet?
Yeah. So like, when I'm going through fan mail, a lot of fans like me to sign it, like a card that they collected in a pack or something. But Bowman also sent me a bunch of cards, or Topps sent me a bunch of cards that I signed as well.
That's even crazier than just having a card that people are asking you to sign your signed card. That's gotta be crazy. Well, this has been a fantastic interview so far, but I usually end it off with I have a routine question, but I want to change it up for you. So I know the ambition is to play in the pros, and one thing I want to know is you're on the mound. Who's one player that you would want to strike out more than any other player in the league? And don't hold back. I want to hear this. Get personal here. Who would you want to strike out in the MLB right now?
In the MLB right now, I would say Josh Donaldson, just because he likes to talk a lot of stuff, and I could see why he talks a lot of stuff. He's trying to defend himself with pitchers, and if they're using sticky stuff and whatnot. But I don't know. I think there's some of the ways he says some things. I think it could come off the wrong way. But I don't know. I don't have a problem with the guy. I would just love to strike his ass out.
I love to hear it, man. All right,
Yeah.
well, I can't wait. Hopefully this interview in a couple years has millions of views because you make it big. But it was a pleasure interviewing you, Matt. Thanks again. I'll put all your socials down below, but is there anything you want to lead off with?
Nah, I just want to say thank you for the interview, and thank you for everybody who's watching this and who will watch it in the future, and thank you for supporting me. That's all I can ask for.
All right, thanks again, man. Everyone, you can subscribe and you can all follow Matt on his socials. They'll be down in the description below. Thanks for watching. Peace out.